So 3 things you do well that are really positive about you. 3 things. 3 things. I'll tell you what happens. When you do 5, you can do 1 and 2. To number 3, you start feeling guilty. Well, I mean, I shouldn't put that down. You know, well, you know, and the thing is, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, correct? Yeah. God creates us. We tell our grandchildren, you know, God created you, you're so special, and we tell this to everybody else but ourselves. You know, God took the DNA from our mother and took the DNA from our father, and he put it together, and he threw some other things in that nobody could figure out where it came from, and there's nobody else like you. And so you celebrate the gifts, whether you're a musician and you can just, well, our pianist today, you know, I would just do anything to be able to do what she just did. So she could write that down, I can play by ear. Ear gets tired, but everything else works. Okay, now, what happens is, we start feeling guilty when we write these down. But we need to look at what's good, what's positive. By the way, caregivers are loyal. Caregivers, think of this, think of others, but you need to look at what's positive about yourself, what's good. Now, if I would ask you to write 5 negative things, how many of you could have done it like this? Exactly. You could have just done it like that and not felt guilty about it. I challenge you every day to be grateful, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the talk, but be grateful for what's good about you. So you look at the positive in yourself. What's good? What's good? Then, by the way, I love this, when Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So every day, before you even get out of bed, think of something good about yourself. Look at the positive. And also remember this. Remember, half the people you know are below average. I did a whole routine for our class reunion, our 45th class reunion. And they asked me to speak, and because I'm cheap, and so they, you know, I figured to give it for free. And so I spoke at my 45th class reunion. I did a whole routine on blessed are the average. The person who gets the C. Did you ever think about this? Those of us who are just the average. I happen to be married to a man, you already heard part of it, but he actually obviously got his life turned around, became a minister, and he's also got his doctorate and PhD. So there's a lot that's happened in our story. And but he's very bright. He has a very high IQ, which is one reason he stole, because they actually timed him how quickly he could steal a radio out of a car. It was a challenge. But he got arrested when he tried to sell the stuff. You just can't do that. And so I'm married to a very bright man. I have 2 sons who are very bright. And so I would say to them, and I'd say to my husband when he taught, and he taught for a while in college, I said to my husband, when you give assignments, think of me. I'm serious, because he can read so fast. I had my sons, when they were like in the 4th grade, when we would drive, we had an hour and a half drive home, they had to take 2 Hardy Boy books. And they'd go through them both. You know, they were speed readers. Okay, most people aren't like that. So think of me. But God bless the average person. Because how would the smart people know they were smart if it wasn't for us? Someone's got to be average. And what's really funny is we try to make everybody above average. Then they just move the bar. I mean, you know, someone's got to be average. So I just did a whole routine on God bless the average person. Look at the positive. I'm average. I'm the bar that everybody sets the standard on. Looking at the positive in yourself. How about looking at the positive in others? Now, it's hard sometimes to look at the positive in ourselves. Now, when we date, it's easy to look at the positive in the person you're dating. It gets harder when you marry them. Did anybody ever notice that? Because we actually thought when we were dating we were going to change them. What a stupid idea. Although it keeps my husband in business. He's a marriage counselor. But but we need to look at the positive in others. Again, what's good? What do they do well? And then we need to tell them that. Now, as a caregiver, and as you think of this, so you can look at the positive in yourself. As a caregiver, think of all the areas where you're going to have to look at the positive in others. First of all, let me ask a question here, because there's a diverse group here. How many of you are caregivers for a parent? Okay, so how many of you also have a partner at home? Okay, so right now you're going to look at the positive in your partner. You're going to look at the positive in your parent. You're going to have to look at how many of you have children? So you're going to look at, think of all the people, But now think of this, when you look at, you go, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. It's harder on you when you're always looking at the negative in all of these people. So we need to move the bar and look at the positive in them. With our children and our teenagers and our grandchildren, most of them, you don't have to tell them what they don't do well because they already know. They need us as the safe person. I'm getting into my book, I gotta stop. They need us to be the cheerleader. They need us to give unconditional love. And by the way, not only do we do this with our children, we need to do this with our partners, our spouses. We need to look at what good they provide. I am married to a man, and sometimes we look at the negative. And we need to reframe sometimes how we look at something. I was sharing you a little bit about my husband. I married him as a high school dropout, just out of jail for breaking and entering. A neighbor actually comes alongside and actually shares faith with my husband, and my husband makes a commitment to Christ. And we go into ministry. But doing that, he went to a Bible Institute to learn how to share his faith, because every church in Hudsonville asked him to come to tell his story. Why? Because he was so bad. Everybody knew it. So they all wanted him to tell the story. They wanted to tell it to the teenagers, so they all wouldn't be bad and they all would learn it and all this kind of stuff. And so my husband did, and they took him on probation when he went to Bible Institute. They took him on probation, when Jerry was used to probation, didn't bother him. So he did. After he graduated, he took those credits and applied them towards a bachelor's. We went into full-time ministry, and he decided he wanted to go for his master's. He still didn't have a high school diploma. So he goes to Aquinas Master's in Management program. He has to take, I think it was the GMAT or the GRE, one of those. And our son, their dad dropped out of high school as a sophomore, never just quit going. He just didn't see the need, so he quit. And so our son, who happened to be a 4-point in valedictorian at Ottawa Hills High School, tutored his dad. Son's not an electrical engineer, so he tutors his dad. He goes, Dad, today we're going to do Algebra 1. Next Monday night we'll do Algebra 2. We'll do a little bit of geometry. We'll do a little bit of trig. So every Monday night through the summer, my husband was being tutored. My husband takes the test, passes it, gets into the program. At graduation, he always just left high school, just left it blank. You're always as good as your last degree. Goes for his master's. Comes home one day and says, I think I want to do original research and I want to go for my PhD. Now remember, I wasn't happy being married to a high school dropout. I was a felon, and all of a sudden now he wants to be a PhD. Well, Michigan State did not accept the test that Aquinas had, so he had to take the other one. Our son tutored him. My husband took it. He passed it. He got into the program, did original research, and do this all the time while he's still working. And when he's 55 years old, he got his PhD, his doctorate. Now, when I would get upset with him, because he always stood up to the chief of police and he was always so, I call him stubborn, because he could just be so stubborn, and I don't like stubborn people. However, when I reframe my husband and I tell his story, and I change and reframe from stubborn to determined, I like him. And I'm proud of him. Because I never would have even started with the program